Hi, thanks for tuning in to Turn to the Stars. My name is Andrea Klim, and I am an astrological counselor and a shamanic practitioner from the local Manchester area. And today, as you can see on the bottom of the screen, we're going to be talking about the new moon in Libra that is coming up in the beginning of October, exactly October 4th. So we have that energy already approaching. And it's interesting that the cycle that we're in here, and throughout the show I'm going to talk about that cycle, going to talk about what October is going to unveil, the influences of the planets. Very, very important month. And I'm also going to talk about the full moon, which is an eclipsed full moon in Aries that comes on October 18th. And I just want to tell you a little story about something that happened on the way in here this morning. And this is really relevant because the sun is in the constellation of Libra right now. And Libra is a very amicable sign. It's peace. It's the peacemaker, and it's one who seeks peace, and it's ruled by this planet Venus, which means that there's a lot of love to give through this sign. And I saw, as I'm coming up Elm Street, and today is September 24th, I saw a big, huge group of women, and they all had these big signs that said free hugs. And they were cheering, and, people were walking up to them, and they were giving them free hugs. And I just thought to myself, what a nice thing to do. I'm not sure if there was a promotion of any type that went along with it, but I'll tell you something, it did bring a smile to my face to see such a roar of happiness outside as I came into the city. And Libra is very much about that. They are the friendly ones. They are the amicable ones. The energy of Libra is beginning to grow. And so I'm going to talk about Libra during today's show. And one of the things I also want to talk about is that, as humanity is moving out of the Piscean age and into the age of Aquarius, we are transmuting in so many ways. With the vibration of our spiritual and our intellectual minds moving into higher gears as we evolve, it is in such hectic times that we are all hungry for meaning and guidance, but often we don't have the time or the patience to pause and reflect deeply on our situations. So any means that opens doorways in your life between your inner feelings, your intentions, your conscious mind, these things are very important not to be disregarded. Anything that helps you to put your feelings into words will be of the utmost importance. Any method or form that teaches you how to hear the voice of your divine guidance will be a wonderful alternative rather than the experience of inner combustion, as we see so much, so often in the world around us. We see it in the news every day, and it's becoming more and more and more. So I wanted to just say that at the very beginning of this show, because I do believe, and this goes along with what I'm going to talk about today, that toxic feelings that stay trapped inside during these times without love and without attention will find their way to get attention in whatever way they can. So I want to remind you that we are all human beings made up of a spirit, a soul, a mind, and a body, and I think of that as a team. And if that team, any one member of that team is out of sync, one of those members of that team is going to show us what's out of sync. So hopefully we're able to pay attention to those little messages, those feelings that are coming up. They're coming up for a reason. The things from the past that are haunting us are coming up for a reason. So I wanted to say that in the beginning of the show. And I do want to tell you about something that Turn to the Stars that I am teaching on October 5th at the Yard restaurant in Manchester, New Hampshire, and that is an introduction class to shamanic journeying and practices. And one of the teachers, actually the very first teacher, which I learned through her book, you saw in past shows, I had Amy Shapiro here, who was also personally taught by Isabel Hickey, who was a spiritual astrologer and a great spiritual teacher. She said that prayer is the way to talk to our divine guidance, but meditation, or as I do, shamanic journeying, is the way that we can hear our guidance. So both are very important. And so I wanted to tell you about this class because it is a way for us to hear our guidance. And it is something that I learned about 4 years ago, and I practice this type of healing myself. I do this type of journey work. This is my way of connecting with that voice that I always don't hear in my life daily. And what you'll learn in this class is you'll learn the history of core shamanic practices. You'll learn the different worlds that a shamanic practitioner can travel. I'll discuss the shamanic journey and methods. I have videography that shows you some really interesting shamanic practices, and you'll learn through guided journeys how you can personally access these worlds. There are different worlds that a shamanic practitioner travels. You'll meet animal guides, spirit teachers who you will begin to develop a relationship with and learn how to track spirits. You'll meet and communicate with your ancestors, and you'll be guided through a journey that will open doors to past lives for understanding and healing in this present life, where you're at right now. That's the most important thing. And learn how you can help others and yourself through the practices of core shamanism. So that is October 5th, October 12th. If you're interested in that, I'd be happy to talk further with you about it. And I can be reached at www.turntothestars, like you see on the bottom of the screen. And it's a very, very fulfilling class. Spiritually fulfilling, spirit, soul, mind, and body. So anyway, as I start the show, I made this really great video that I want to show you, which is going to sort of set the scene for what I'm going to talk about on the show today. So I'm going to go ahead and play that. It took me a couple hours to make this yesterday, so I hope you enjoy it, and I'll be right back. So that video was, in a nutshell, what I'm going to be talking about in today's show. The month of October, starting with that new moon, I'm going to talk about some really interesting aspects that are being formed between the planets and what they are, and describe that to you. And I'm going to talk about that full moon that's eclipsed on October 18th. Very, very important month that we are coming into, October, as it is a marker of changes that are going to be unfolding in our lives over the next 6 months. Eclipses are always those major markers, and it's really important to take a look at them, but we also need to take a look at these big powerhouse planets and what they're doing, because there is some powerful energy that's affecting us, and we all know it by what we're experiencing in our lives. So this new moon is about breaking free and transforming your life. And as you saw on the screen, I talked about a Sabian symbol. A Sabian symbol is another way to provide further insight. And being that this new moon, the sun and the moon together, on this new moon on October 4th at 11 degrees and 58 minutes, this symbol, or the picture that Sabian symbol draws, is of miners, as you saw in the video, emerging from a deep coal mine. And also, some of the things that we're seeing in October is something we call a kite or a diamond tetrahedron that's showing up again. This is going to show up on October 5th, and it's pointing right to Pluto at the tip of the diamond. And I'd like to show a chart to you of the new moon. Yes, this is the new moon that's occurring on October 4th, and what you're seeing is a map of the heavens. The red arrow is pointing right to that new moon. You see the symbol for the sun and the moon together, united, and it is the marker of what, we look at this as showing us the theme for what's to unfold this month. And I'm going to talk more about this chart and the dynamics of it as we move forward in the show. I want to show you another chart, though, which is the next chart, not the full moon, but there we go. That chart right there shows, if you can look right to the center of this chart, you see a big triangle, and at the bottom of that triangle there's lines that connect it with a point. It looks like a kite. I call it a diamond soul, or the influence of a diamond energy, which is extremely of a very high vibration of positive support, compassion, understanding. There's a lot of water there. So that kite, which we call a kite tetrahedron, is showing up, and this chart is for October 5th, what you're seeing on the screen. And it's pointing right down to the planet Pluto at the tip of the diamond. The kite or diamond tetrahedron formation is pouring its energies into avenues of spirituality, deep personal psychology, romance, friendship, and key relationships in our lives. So this is really highlighted through this formation of angles of positive energy between these planets, and we will be strongly motivated through this energy to rethink the changes we're planning to make in our relationships to suit the changes going on in the other parts of our lives. So this kite diamond energy, which you're looking at right in front of you, and this is a map of the heavens or the universe, our solar system, on October 5th, energizes us to fly through as we manage all the changes taking place, promises us that we won't break promises, that we can withstand these changes. The door is open to surrender to the powers of the powerful, transformative forces that are guiding us. So the key point of interest in October's chart has to do partly with the overall structure and makeup of this kite or this diamond formation. We will feel pressured to make changes in all of our deep personal relationships to accommodate future changes to come. The proposed changes in relationships is being obstructed by a couple different directions in the new moon chart and the full moon chart, and we're reminded by the squares. Now, you can also see in this chart, if you're looking to the center of it, it looks like there's a red cross. And connecting that cross on all the outside there, it looks like a big square. And that's what we call a grand cardinal cross squared off. And it's made up by oppositions and squares. And this promises us that this transformative process that we are in the process of going through in our lives is not going to be easy. It promises that there'll be challenges to overcome. There'll be some storms to maneuver through before the harmony that the kite and the diamond energy promises to shine, just shine through. So, we see tension in that chart. We see a great deal of tension, and it's stimulated by the Pluto-Uranus square that feeds into that transformative work of that kite formation. So as the kite remains constant, the Uranus-Pluto square continues to block its transformative power, forcing us to make revisions of the changes that we had expected to make. So we can now expect a whole array of new intangible considerations to factor into a much higher level of economic, political decision making, and we may find ourselves cutting and pasting ourselves to fit the relationship changes that are that need to be made for both political and for peacemaking, both politically, as I was saying before, and personally. So what you're seeing there is affecting all of us and in our personal lives, and then dominoing out to the political aspects of our life. So looking at that kite, remember that picture in your mind of what you saw, which was the kite and the cardinal square. And you notice that those red lines sync right up with the point of that kite. And the kite, or as I call it, diamond energy, remains constant. And it reminds us that the challenges that we face on this road to transforming our lives and the world is, all of this is for a much higher purpose, and one which is best for all of us. So it reminds us to keep walking forward one step at a time. So we should, I really want to discuss the T-square also that shows up on that new moon in the new moon chart. And that T-square offers sharp resistance to planned changes. So if you're expecting, okay, you've got everything neatly in order, this is what I'm going to change in my life, it suggests that interpersonal issues surrounding proposed changes are going to come up. Expect that. And it's really going with the flow of these chaotic changes, or the changes that are occurring, is probably in your best interest. The T-square does not link up so completely with the dynamic forces of the kite or the diamond energy, because due to the way it connects with the kite, it's not like the kite is able to completely drown out the tension that T-square brings. So it's hard for the kite to gracefully absorb the tension it puts forth. So now I want to put the full moon chart on the screen. And the arrow pointing down right there at the crescent-shaped object is that full moon lunar eclipse that is occurring on October 18th. And this lunar eclipse can actually be seen over Europe, West Asia, the eastern part of North America. So here in New Hampshire, we should be able to see this. It's maximum where it's going to be occurring. Now, this is a penumbral eclipse, so that means it's not a full total eclipse, but we should be able to see it here about 7:50 p.m. on October 18th. And the picture that the picture that the Sabian symbol paints that is associated with this degrees of Aries on this full moon, that full moon is going to be at exactly 25 degrees and 43 minutes in the constellation of Aries, as you saw on the video. And the picture it paints is of a man possessed of many gifts, and so many that he can't hold them. And it made me think of, we each individually as human beings have many gifts. We don't even embrace or we're not even aware of how many gifts that we have access to spiritually, on a soul level, on a mind level, on a body level. So this full moon does show a sharp resistance to planned changes. It points to a major shift in our attitudes and the life expectations that we have. So it indicates a sweeping, permanent, irreversible shift in our world view. And I know I'm getting closer to the end of the time for the show today, so there's probably going to be a part 2 to this, because there's a lot of information and there's a lot that I would like to share with you that will help you through this month of October. So I'll encourage you to tune in next week as we finish the remainder of this show, which is going to be talking about some of the major stuff going on in the charts. So one of the things that we see on that full moon eclipse is that Mars is squaring Venus, and there's an eventual opposition to Neptune and Chiron, which energetically further blocks and causes resistance, showing up as deep emotional issues, things that haunt us and force us to look further for further resolution, beyond which is certainly what is currently on the surface. So I want to show you that chart, which is the kite chart, and you saw it earlier. And the chart is has the kite in it and the diamond energy. If we could put that up on the screen for a minute here. I'm sorry. That's the kite chart. The diamond. Yep, that's it right there. That is the chart that I'm talking about presently. And what this energy in this chart is indicating is that people are naturally going to resist the changes that are happening in their life, because there's a fear of obstruction in their personal lives and to their relationships. So any changes we attempt to make for the sake of our own personal convenience must also accommodate the spiritual, psychological, and, an understanding of the moral pressures around us. And that's a lot to take in. So this energy is reminding us that we can no longer do things just because it is convenient for us anymore. There'll be subtle and less tangible ideas, which we suddenly have come into our mind's eye, that won't allow us to deny the effects. So it's very important that we're listening to that inner guidance and not dismissing it. Lunar eclipses have a strong effect on relationships in our personal lives, and that is going to be very intense, very big around that time of October 18th. So combined with the effects of that full moon, lunar eclipse energy on October 18th are the effects of these sudden realizations. And those realizations will derail the changes we thought that we were going to make. So expect the unexpected is pretty much what I'm saying. So due to the direction of the universe and the guidance it dictates, we will no longer be able to do things which are of a material and self-power or control-directed course. What is occurring is not man-directed control, but spiritually and moral-directed change. And that's a mouthful to say. The already considerable force behind these deeply guided feelings is something I'm going to talk about on next week's show, which is the Saturn conjunct the North Node in Scorpio. Saturn conjoined the North Node actually back around September 17th, and it put us all in a highly charged emotional state, reminding us very frankly of our responsibilities and of the direction we need to keep going in, which is to weed out all that is toxic in our lives and to trust, to really trust in the power of transformation. And it also reminds us to hold on to the faith and not the fear with where we're going. It also reminded us that our values are being renewed and reaffirms all of our societal values. So I do want to say that I know that we're at the end of the show, and I do want to thank you all for tuning in to Turn to the Stars. I want to thank you all for your continued support, and I hope you'll tune in next week to hear part 2 of the new moon in October and all the other powerful planetary forces that are affecting us and setting in place what's to come over the next 6 months. So thanks for tuning in to Turn to the Stars. I hope you have a great week, and I'll see you next week.